for taking the time, the three of you, to be here today. This morning, as I was saying earlier, we heard a lot about the massive potential opportunity that exists. Opportunities to scale finance for smallholder farmers. But we also heard about the colossal financial deficit or gap, which is in the region of, I think I heard, 80 billion to 100 billion US dollars. Yeah. During this session, we want to look at the landscape of smallholder financing and talk about some of the models that have worked. But first, before we do that, you've all been invited here to talk about the models that might work. So everyone in the audience, I hope you have your pen and your paper to take notes. Maybe let us set the scene to begin with, right? So I would like to hear from each of you, or I'd like each of you to just set the scene for a couple of minutes. Why don't I start with yourself, Daniel, seeing as you're right close to me?
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Daniel Huber. I lead Community Pass business in MasterCard for Africa. And Community Pass is a social enterprise within MasterCard, focused on developing and rolling out digital solutions for individuals, communities, and businesses at last mile. Now, we have been at this journey for about 5 years now, working with close to 4 million farmers. And what have we seen, right? And if you go to the morning conversation with a number of our speakers, what we see as MasterCard is the fact that a lot of our farmers today are operating in very closed-loop ecosystem. They are operating within themselves, and one of the critical challenges that is making it difficult for them to access financing is a lack of trust, right? And trust is a big issue that in our view needs to be unpacked, and hopefully I will do justice today to talk about what are we doing to unlock that trust within ecosystem players so that we can be able to provide financing to smallholder farmers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Daniel. We will come on to Community Pass at MasterCard and as an example of a model that's working. Sieka, set the scene for us. What is the current landscape like?
Thanks, Yvonne. To everyone, I'm Sieka Gadabaki, the Program Director for Mercyco AgriFin. We've been working in the agricultural space for over 10 years now, specifically looking at how digital innovations can positively impact the livelihoods of smallholder farmers. One of the stats that maybe was not mentioned in the morning that we've seen recurrently is that about 60% of financing to smallholder farmers is actually provided by the off-takers in the value chain. So this is an interesting dynamic. We all know that the cooperatives, the different off-takers, the large business, agribusinesses that are working with these smallholder farmers are actually carrying that burden of providing finance to smallholder farmers. But oftentimes, because they're doing that, they tend to then have a big toll on their balance sheet. To some of them, almost 70% of their balance sheet liabilities goes to this, which is not their primary business. So there are a lot of challenges that they have to overcome to ensure that they can continue to provide these services to smallholder farmers. I'll touch on this as well as digital technology as we move along in this conversation.
Thank you very much, Sieka. I don't want us to get too technical yet. We're going to keep it nice and simple, right, for the audience. So again, back to the primary question. Just give us an overview, Chad, of the current landscape as you see it at Visa.
Yes. So I'm Chad Pollock. I'm the General Manager for Visa East Africa. And I'm going to take a little bit from what both gentlemen said and say copy-paste. And then I'm going to add to it that for us, we're looking at the entire value chain. What we really see are those challenges around data, transparency, the lack of the application of AI and machine learning, which are obviously becoming ubiquitous technologies. But really, how do you optimize the supply chain finance and the working capital that already exists within the anchor firms?
Thank you very much. Okay, so we have talked a little bit about, you've mentioned a trust issue, the lack of data, transparency issues. And you're all in some way involved in developing or implementing models that can work. So I want us to talk about some of those models, and I want you to explain to the audience what these models are and how they work, and then we'll go and discuss, or we'll go into discussing maybe some of the challenges with scaling those models, right? So let's start with those models. Maybe Daniel, if you could kick off at MasterCard.
Yes.
Situate MasterCard in this, first of all, in this issue, and then tell us a little bit about Community Pass. You mentioned it earlier. Tell us a little bit about Community Pass and what it is doing to address the primary issue we're here to discuss today.
Yeah, thanks, Yvonne. So, picking from where I just started in terms of the lack of trust within ecosystem actors. And the stage was set in the morning by the speakers around, if you look at the statistics of financing in that sector at single digit. One of the things we've realized in our markets as we work down with our smallholder farmers through various cooperatives, through financial institutions, and through agri-techs, is the fact that farmers are actually transacting individuals. The challenge is they are only known and respected within their own ecosystem. And because of that barrier, a lot of the actors that are providing services to them have no visibility of what actually are the transactions that are taking place. So what are we doing from a Community Pass perspective? So what we've done is we've created what we call a Community Pass credential. And the credential basically, in very simple terms, is basically a secure, verifiable, and interoperable digital representation or proof point of a farmer's achievement, their capacities, and their skills. That is really what that credential is all about. And how do we do it? Now, those of us who have traveled and have come to the conference today, I'm sure when you checked into your hotel, and you're paying for your hotel or you're booking into your hotel, I want to believe you probably had a MasterCard with you. And when you got in there, what you did is that you provided your card. Some magic happened at that particular stage, and you saw the warm smile of the lady at the reception or the gentleman at the reception telling you, welcome to our hotel. Did they receive the money immediately for them to onboard you? No. But they trusted that because your credential was accepted in this particular hotel, they can actually provide you service without knowing your account. Can you imagine us doing the same to our farmers in the room today? That's what Community Pass is doing. We are providing credentials to the farmers through our bank partners. So we work here with, for example, Equity Bank, together with the ecosystem of aggregators here, whether it is Digical, the agri-tech, whether it is KENAF, the Farmer Federation, to be able to provide that stamp of approval to a farmer's transaction. So that when the farmer is buying inputs, for example, that transaction of the farmer requesting and paying for an input becomes a digital record that is stored on their profile. When the farmer is attending a training on climate change, that particular capacity is recorded and captured as part of their profile. And when a farmer is selling their offtake, that when they are receiving that premium price, we can validate that that farmer was the actual person who actually produced that. So imagine the world of putting all that into a digital profile of the farmer and making it possible for that to be consumed by Equity Bank so that they can look at the farmer differently, because now there is something to trace that farmer and their transactions. So that's what we're doing, bringing that power back to the farmer, giving choice to the farmer, and opening up opportunities to de-risk and reduce the cost of doing business for the farmer.
Okay, Daniel, that all sounds great. This Community Pass, is it an app? Is it a website? What is it? What is the physical manifestation of it? And who are these farmers showing this credential to?
Good.
Is it a commercial bank? Who are they showing it to?
Thanks, Yvonne. So, similar to how MasterCard is rolling out programs, we play at the infrastructure layer.
Yeah.
So what we do is look at Community Pass as basically a digital highway. It is an infrastructure play that allows other actors to plug in through APIs. So the representation to a farmer is very simple. They basically need a card in their hand. That card becomes the opener for opportunities and services. For the service provider, for example, the agro-dealer, they just require their phone, where the farmer can tap their card and be served. For a banker, because they have offered that card, they can then open an account attached to that particular farmer using their own systems. So it's really different instances, as we call it, depending on the actor that we are talking about.
Great. And can you tell us how many farmers have access to Community Pass?
We are serving close to 4 million farmers today in Africa, in 4 countries. Very specifically, we are in Uganda, working with various agri-techs and working with financial institutions such as Equity Bank there. We are live in Tanzania, working with local agri-techs there. We are live in Ethiopia. I'm very proud to see my good friend, the CEO of Cooperative Bank of Oromia, one of our largest partners in Ethiopia. We are also live in Kenya here for sure, working with Equity Bank, working with KENAF, and we have just gone live in Nigeria.
Great, thank you very much, Daniel. I feel like Visa should go next. Okay, so Chad, tell us, what's going on at Visa and what are you doing, or what models are working to address this issue? Over to you.
Yes. And I think for us, we're taking a different approach. And for this panel, we've agreed we're going to be cordial cousins because there's no competition when it comes to supporting smallhold farmers. But really, we're looking at it from a innovation perspective. We're looking at it from a, like I said, supply chain management perspective, and then also from a capacity building perspective as well. So I'll just say that we haven't been as present in Africa as MasterCard. That is growing. Most of our agri-solutions exist within LAC. So we have partnerships with 24 banks across 10 countries in Latin America. And really what we look at is the entire value chain. So we go all the way from the onboarding process to the validation, to the monitoring, and then to the harvesting, to the warehousing, to distribution. And at each point within that stage, we're picking up specific data points. So we say, know your farmer. So come in, we want to know who the person is, we want to know the plot, we want to know the land, the location, what kind of soil, what are they farming. Even when it comes down to the validation, we have agro specialists come out, they do their measuring, and they're able to train the farmers along the way and assess if they're going to be eligible for credit from a financial institution. And then once they get into the actual farming portion, we're monitoring it using AI, satellites, drones, using other probes to test the health of the soil and to be able to measure the yield of those crops on the back end. And then when we get to the harvesting perspective, we're looking at how do we Uberize that? So essentially you think about it now, I'm going to age myself, but I remember when I used to go and call a cab, I used to have to wait on a corner somewhere and stick my hand up, wait for a cab to come pick me up. You tell the cab where you want to go, you pay the cab, and you get out. Now you just go to your phone, you push a button, somebody shows up. You don't have to have a conversation, they drop you off. Everything happens automatically. We're looking to do that same process when it comes to the harvesting, to the warehousing, to the distribution. All within there, again, we've extended some level of credit to the farmer. We've validated that that credit is going to be de-risked because we're monitoring those test points, the yield of the crops, and able to go back to the bank for more favorable interest rates. On the longer term, what it does is it gives FIs and it gives the fintechs that we partner with more data so they can start to lower those interest rates. But also we're leveraging the corporate balances of our corporate partners. And we actually just launched a solution 2 weeks ago, I think 3 weeks ago, called City Optimized Pay. And it's a buyer-supplier solution. And what it does is it says, you big corporate, you anchor firm, you have a credit line of $50 million. Well, now we can take that, we can leverage that to be able to pay your suppliers faster than a normal 30 to 90-day window. And then on the back end, the SME, the farmer, whoever that is, they can receive their payment via bank account, via digital wallet, all automatically, and it's all managed within this digital system. All the invoicing, everything is just digitally. So for us, we're looking at how do we digitize each one of those flows, how do we measure and optimize it, almost like a transaction flow, to make sure that data goes back to continue to drive iteration. And then the last point I'll mention is that we are starting to do things on the blockchain as well. So in Argentina, we have a blockchain product where farmers can actually convert their commodities into a stable coin and to be able to transact on that via their card for buying supplies or whatever is necessary down the road.
Thank you very much, Chad. Also, it sounds like a lot of interesting innovation and solutions that Visa's working on in respect of this issue. Let me bring in Sieke. Sieke, if you could now situate Mercy Corps, AgriFin, in this discussion and conversation. What is it that you are trying to do and how are you doing it?
Thanks Yvonne. And what we've been trying to do for the last 10 years plus, I think now we're doing it, and we've been doing it quite well. So to situate us in this current context, what Mercycorp does in order to uplift the lives of smallholder farmers is we identify technologies and technology players that have the right product mix, the right technology that can truly deliver positive returns for smallholder farmers across multiple spectrums. Could be on financial services or information services. So it could be extension, good agricultural practice, climate smart agriculture, etc. And what we've been noticing over the last 10 years is, one, for sure, financial service providers that are actually able to reach farmers have lost their tie. And let me speak that metaphorically. You have to be able to immerse yourself in the farmer's context. And as has been said by many other speakers, you remove some limiting concepts like collateralization. I mean, that goes out the door. You remove a lot of the other risks that you are taking into consideration and start to think from the ground up. As a farmer, how do I get them access to these services at the lowest cost possible without taking a risk on my shareholder funds? And what we found is that there's a growing movement around what we call hybrid value chain actors. And this would be your agribusinesses that have done not just the off-taking of the produce and the training and capacity building of the farmers, but they integrate technology that has allowed them to now provide services that are outside of their typical scope. So it could be financial services, and this could be either directly as an institution or in partnership with a financial service provider. So similar to what the two models that have been mentioned. Now, when you look at this hybrid value chain actors, it's a continuum. There are some that have taken a lot of those activities within their gambit. So they go all the way to actually sourcing for finance to provide these financial services. They also have integrated insurance models to allow them to de-risk some of those agricultural practices. And they have inbuilt information services that provide the farmer with the climate smart agronomics information that they would require at any one point in time. Then on the other end of the spectrum, you have these hybrid organizations that are forming a lot of partnerships in the ecosystem. And these are the ones that leverage the strengths of other players. But this partnership formation, has been mentioned previously as well, is a challenge in itself. Ensuring that you're able to share data and not feel that that data sharing comes without a what's in it for me issue in terms of, can I gain, if I share my data, what is the value in return for sharing that data? So we've seen quite a number of models, and quite a number of these institutions have been mentioned earlier on. So we've worked with organizations like Coamana that started from the very beginning as a platform that was looking to connect female farmers to food feeding centers across Nigeria. And they pivoted a number of times with the benefit of technology, allowing you to adjust your business model so you can incorporate new services and move from the tail wagging the dog to the dog wagging the tail, so to speak. Yeah, so they've moved into a marketplace platform that digitizes market vendors. And by doing that, they're able to then provide working capital to the market vendors. Many of these market vendors are actually smallholder farmers as well, especially in rural markets. And because they've digitized these markets, they're able to get real-time access to market pricing. And that pricing now becomes a new asset that they can leverage and share with the ecosystem to improve the way services are delivered, to de-risk some of these other financial services that the smallholder farmers would require. We've also worked with partners like Afex, that's doing a lot of the similar work in the warehouse receipting space as well. They have incorporated digital financial services on their platform because they have that direct interaction with the farmer. Huba talked about trust. A lot of these off-takers have built trust because they've been off-taking from these farmers for a long period of time. their cost to serve these farmers is much lower because they're going in with a service that they can profitably gain from by interacting directly with the farmers. So it makes sense that if they're enabled with innovations, with digital technology, they can provide a myriad of services, including either direct access to finance or a channel through which other financial services providers can provide this finance. And there are a number of these innovators that we've seen across the continent. We have DigiFarm in Kenya, Extension Africa providing digital extension services. Of course, Pula integrating with them to provide insurance services as well. So this hybrid phenomenon is, I think, one of the best ways in which we can actually solve this challenge for smallholder farmer financing.
And I love what he said about the digital marketplace. I love what he said about the digital marketplace because that's where the world is going. Despite the fact that smartphone penetration is still relatively low in some parts of Africa, there's still that interface between digital and physical. And so when you have that digital marketplace, it allows more people to be aware of what's happening, bring people together. But then what we found is through our partnership with Thrive at Greek, we've been doing a lot of financial literacy training. And what we do is we have these hubs where we bring farmers together at these hubs. We train them on best practices. We expose them to financial products so they understand how to optimize these use cases. More so, we have exposure to them to understand what are they doing, what are their challenges, so we can use that to help inform policy and to help inform the products that we're building. And so hopefully we're looking for some support when it comes to devices and infrastructure upgrades so that they can now become a more stronger part of the digital economy because to a degree they can be left out, but once they become a part of it, they can take advantage of this seamless transition from harvesting to warehousing to finding places to immediately offload their crops. So for me, I think digital marketplace is the way to go.
Thank you very much for that.
Could I just add?
Yes, go ahead, Daniel.
I just wanted to pick on from second conversation. I think one of the things that, in my view, we need to amplify more is, for financial institutions to come down, like we've said that across morning, and Elizabeth talks about let's be real to the farmer and let's listen to the farmer. One of the things we are seeing is that because there are a lot of closed loop programs that are working in agriculture that are not speaking to each other, we have a challenge that we need to be able to unpack and allow for interoperability. And I'll give you two examples. One is we are having very detailed conversation with CRDB Bank in Tanzania, for example, and I see Abdul Majid is here, around how can we unlock the opportunity for the farmers, given they are already tapping into African Development Bank programs. There are a number of cooperatives that are already working there. But how do we make sure that the identity of a farmer within one cooperative can be accepted into the next cooperative? So then there is that interoperability in a way in which trust is built. But what we have also seen is that we need to be simple. I think for a long time in the digital agriculture space, we have confused the farmer and every actor with all our technologies. I think it's time to take a step back and say, can we just be simple to the farmer? Can we resolve this in a business manner, a way in which we can mobilize resources and make it work? And look at the payment industry. Me and my competitor are in the space.
Cousins.
The reason why we make it work is because globally as you travel, you can be able to easily trade without the hassle for you as a user to worry about what do I need to do to actually get up and trade. We can do the same in agriculture by linking what we are calling the information exchange and digital programs to the payment ecosystem. And I think we are very well placed to be able to bring those two worlds together without creating competition, without creating unnecessary conflict. And lastly, also working with government to be able to then empower the farmers to be able to know their rights when it comes to issues of data privacy, to be able to know that it is important for them to give consent when their data is being used, so that then they are not being misused in the process of providing services to them.
Thank you very much, Daniel, Chad, and Sieka. The innovations and solutions that you talked about sound great, but to think about it critically, you need to be a farmer. You need to be a smallholder farmer. I'm curious, and I would love to actually hear from smallholder farmers what their feedback is. But what do you know about their experience of the solutions and innovations that we're discussing? Maybe we could start with you, Chad. What is the feedback you're getting? And then we'll move on to really how the challenges of scaling some of these ideas. But what is the feedback you're getting from smallholder farmers?
So I'm fortunate enough to where our innovation studio, which is based here in Kenya, right on Riverside Drive here in Nairobi, is run by a young lady named Olivia. She's the lady in the blue right here. She's actually a smallholder farmer. So when we design our solutions around these individuals, we have an individual that understands the challenges, that has been through those challenges herself, and also when our executives come into market, they actually go out to farms with her to speak to farmers live. Again, just like my cousin here, we're present all around the world, 200 countries, 160 currencies. So for us, a lot of our innovations are extending from what we see in Latin America, but here on the continent, we have a solution within Cote d'Ivoire around cocoa farming. What we found was that, in Cote d'Ivoire, about 40% of the world's cocoa beans are produced in Cote d'Ivoire. However, the margins for the production is very slim. In fact, it's like 5 to 7% only on the processing and the distribution, and production is like even smaller than that. And so we were able to go to Cote d'Ivoire and be able to impact 700,000 cocoa farmers, which ultimately impacted about 5 million people that rely on that supply chain, with the card similar to what Daniel was talking about, but it's like an identity card, it's a payment card, but also a data card that allows you to load your data about your crops and how they're doing. And so the feedback that we got from them was they now have dignity, they now have the opportunity to be able to pay wherever they want to go, they can receive their payments on the card. And in some places, the ID is just like the single source of that, right? And there are many places where people can't tell who you are because there's a lack of identification. So in those cases, we found huge success, but I'm happy to take any comments or any questions from the audience as well.
Thank you very much. Daniel and Sieka, what is the feedback you're getting from farmers, briefly?
Let me jump in so that Daniel then can add from his perspective of FarmPass. So I'll talk about Kwamana. Last year, there were extreme floods in Nigeria. And a number of the farmers who were taking their wares to the marketplace lost all their produce, lost their income completely due to those floods. Now, what Kwamana has done with their platform is that for every farmer that's digitized on their platform and market vendor, they automatically get an insurance cover that is in partnership with Pula Insurance Advisors and Leadway. For the first time, those farmers were able to receive payoffs for lost produce in this context. And they had never had insurance before. And these people were asking, they were actually saying like, wow, I mean, is this for free? How did this happen? The way their model works is that a percentage of the revenue generated from transactions on the platform goes into a community risk fund. And that is supplemented by other funds that goes to pay the premium to cover the insurance for the market vendors and farmers. So for the first time, they're able to cover a market risk that farmers were not aware could be covered. They were able to then get the benefit of that. And after that, the behavior change started to happen. They're asking, can I get more cover? Can I get covered for health? Can I get covered for other services? I now understand the importance of insurance, and I'm willing to pay for that service. So by integrating such kinds of models and bringing different players to bear and act, they're able to then create a system where you can truly help smallholder farmers prosper.
Thank you very much. Daniel, briefly, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, I think we are hearing a couple of things. Number one is that farmers are telling us very consistently they need respect. They need not to be treated as subjects or passive participants in this ecosystem, but they need to be seen as transacting and trading individuals. 2 examples. In Kenya, we have a cooperative in Eldoret who we brought together as part of our partnership with AFDB and Microsoft. We brought in connectivity to that cooperative. You could assume that cooperatives may not really see the benefit of connectivity, but they were able to reduce their cost by almost twice, right? And shifted from the current provider to another, increased the digitization of their record, and now have secured lending from Equity Bank. If you look at the second example in Tanzania, we have a farmer who is called Jackson. Jackson comes from the Kagera region in Tanzania. And Jackson, started as a farmer digital agent for one cooperative. And look, we have used Jackson as a trainer in Tanzania, and Jackson did not complete high school. Today, Jackson, as a master trainer, has started his own cooperative that is actually aggregating coffee and selling it. They've told us, step back, respect me, allow me to be able to transact, come to me as a service provider with respect, not with counter sentence. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Daniel. All the ideas shared here sound great, but we would obviously not be here if there was no problem. We're still talking about an $80 billion to $100 billion gap.
Yes.
What are the major impediments and challenges to scaling some of these innovations, and how can we overcome them? Chad?
I would say the first part begins with policy. I think that we need to be more creative and more, have a higher risk tolerance, risk appetite for policy shifts that don't just address the anchor firms, but go down to the small farmer. When we look at things like disbursements, when we look at things that will impact their infrastructure, I mean, there were the comments about how much investment goes into other pieces of infrastructure, but not so much into agriculture. So I think that needs a keen eye. The other thing I would say is, we're trying to drive financial literacy in this space, but I think more broader scale financial literacy. The face of the farmer is changing every day. It used to kind of be someone that was like my grandmother's age or my father's age, and now it's getting younger and younger, but it's also becoming popularized. So there's probably going to be a trend more towards getting back to these types of skill sets. So how do you inject these skill sets into the ecosystem so that they're more broadly known? So I'd probably start with those two.
Thank you very much. Sieka?
Piggybacking on some of the things he's mentioned, number one, I think to really accelerate a lot of these solutions, you need digital public infrastructure. So you need a context where, and this can only really be supported by either public-private partnerships or the public sector really driving the development of these types of infrastructure that allow for information sharing, that allow for actors to be able to cooperate and collaborate so that the best of their services can be shared amongst the ecosystem players to enrich the whole ecosystem. So when you have a digital public infrastructure base, you're able to share, as Huba was mentioning, credit information. So you're able to then tell a farmer's credit worthiness and allow different institutions to offer different services to those farmers. So digital public infrastructure is one of the key things that I say is still lacking for us to take advantage of the innovations available. The second one is digital public infrastructure or digital public goods. A lot of the agricultural services are not often easily monetizable. Yeah? So you can't necessarily make money on information services, on agronomics, etc. So you do need a base of public good where it is supported to ensure that the farmers do get the training, capacity building that is required for them to perform and build their productivity and yields. I think those two areas, which are completely in the gambit of the public sector, need to be looked upon as we look to develop true innovative solutions for the agricultural sector.
Great, thank you. And Daniel, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think for me, in addition to what my colleagues have talked about, is we need a more integrated value chain. I still think that in Africa, a lot of our value chains are very loose. And because of the various actors that are in the value chain, that we are not fully integrated, the absorption capacity of credit within various value chains are still very low. So if we can be able to have a more integrated ecosystem, I think that would be great. Number two, in my view, is we need to relook at the cost of financing. I think from Dr. James Mwangi in the morning, our Waziri Kagwe talked about the cooperative movement, for example. In my view, it is time to relook at the cooperative model again. And if we can be able to cascade that cooperative model in a way in which it has a business orientation, so that then cooperatives start operating as business entities, so that they can then be able to stand in the gap for the farmer to be able to accept and to be able to take on more credit facilities. I think strengthening the cooperative movement will go a long way in doing that. I think lastly for me is maybe we need to take a relook at the various mechanisms, whether it is blended financing, whether it's step-down facilities, whether it is invoice discounting. I feel like we need to relook at those models to be relevant to the various value chains. I think we have very generic financial instruments. We have a generic instrument around seed, around fertilizer, for example. How can we be able to make it more specific to value chains? And if we do that, in my view, we will then see a difference in terms of more credit going out to the sector.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It feels right to have a short Q&A. I don't know whether I can get a thumbs up, because I think, can I get a thumbs up? Can't see. Can I think it would be great to just have
Fair.
some audience interaction on
Let's
this.
go for it.
If you're game for it.
Yes.
Right, okay, good.
Let's go for it.
Because what we're really here to do is really explore
Yeah.
these models, and these models, they do need some probing, maybe above my level of expertise, right? So it would be great if you have a question. I hope it's okay to do this. If you could just go to the microphone. There are 2 microphones, one on my right and one on my left. I truly hope they are working. Please say your name, what you do, why you are here, and ask a short question. We have Daniel, Sieka, and Chad. So, does anybody have, great. If you could stand up, sir, and please introduce yourself and pose your question. Let us know who your question is for. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Ayodeji Balogun. I'm the CEO of AFEX. And I just want to talk to the point of the why of this conversation. And my question, a bit rhetorical, is that, is there any link between financial inclusion and increased income of the smallholder farmer?
Financial inclusion and increased income for the smallholder farmer. Daniel, you seem keen.
Yes, thanks, Deji, my friend. The link between financial inclusion and income of the smallholder farmer. I think there is a link, direct answer, but I think the way we have been positioning it has been very separate. So we look at financial inclusion as a social affair to try and help farmers to become better. And we look at income as a very different element. In my view, there's a link, because for you to attain financial inclusion, in fact, for me, financial security, you must be able to actually trade and get enough income that makes you financially secure. So I see those 2 things as linked, and we should actually be starting from income improvements that will ultimately lead to financial security.
Thank you very much. Chad or Sienna, do you want to add to that very briefly?
I agree with what he says, and one thing I would say is that through financial inclusion, the ultimate goal is to add productivity, right? So the more data you capture on these processes, the more efficiency you can find, you can start to really distribute a lot of the, I'll call it the value that exists within the existing marketplace. And so some of that should trickle down to the smallholder farmers. So the goal is that, you have the large anchor firms that, might have their larger profits, and because they have larger distribution models, et cetera, or once you can get to a stage of like higher productivity, then in fact you can start to spread that out to the smallholder farmers, and they can begin to benefit from that. And that's where I would say the wealth generation begins to occur. And so then once you have educated them, they can maintain that wealth, and you start to look at new products such as insurance, wealth management, but it's going to take time.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Sieka.
Yeah, maybe just to add one point. And I think I'll do this on the back of mobile money. And I think what mobile money has done for the general financial sector has done a lot more for smallholder farmers. The ability to access funds at close proximity to where you stay, your ability for your transactions to be seen or witnessed through a system, and you're able to then provide additional financial services or even educational services on that back end is a powerful thing. And so financial inclusion definitely, as the penetration of digital financial services, etc., has a direct correlation to improved productivity, incomes, and as my colleague was saying, the whole self-esteem of the smallholder farmer. I think it powerfully encourages them to feel that I'm not doing agriculture, I'm actually in agribusiness. I actually can see a future potential in my farming because I'm included in the financial system.
Thank you very much, Sieka. We have one more question. The lady at the microphone, or maybe 2, I'm not sure. But the lady at the microphone, please, please introduce yourself and say what you do, and then go ahead and pose your question.
Thank you, moderator. My name is Phumzile Twala. I am from Eswatini. I am a farmer. I produce vegetables with other outgrower farmers, and I also provide smallholder farmers machinery. I am also Director of Youth Affairs at SACAO, Southern African Confederation for African Agriculture Unions. And I agree with all of you gentlemen, digital migration is the way to go. As youth in Southern Africa, we have been planning to have digital platforms that I see you are covering, and 80% of the ideas that we have, you're already doing. So instead of reinventing the wheel and wasting resources, I want to find out how can we partner with you, because I realized that I heard you mentioning fewer countries in the Southern African continent, and we want to partner with you so that we also access these digital platforms. And then for Chad, I heard you talk about providing solutions for the whole value chain. And I understand that we are lacking in the distribution and logistics sector. Ms. Elizabeth mentioned that we don't have enough warehouses and cold storage. We have poor infrastructure when it comes to the roads, and fewer people are acting in the logistics sector. How are you helping smallholder farmers to ensure that that part is tackled? Thank you.
Great question from a young female farmer from Eswatini. I'll ask one of you to answer because we're out of time. So who wants to take on that question?
Since my name was mentioned, I'll take it.
Okay, great, and then we'll wrap up.
So I would say, how can you partner with us? For us, we have an innovation studio here in Nairobi. We use that as a way to capture ideas and be able to find use cases that are relevant for the markets here in East Africa. So it's easy to find me or my colleagues. We can sit down and we'll plug in with other ecosystem partners and unpack some of the challenges. We don't pretend to know everything. In fact, I would say we probably know a very small fraction of what the possibilities are, but we're always looking to learn so we can improve these processes. On the infrastructure question, I feel like that's probably more of getting to the policy realm. I would say that for us, we see the opportunity, we see the value chain itself, but as far as the quality of the infrastructure, the quality of these things, I don't really know if I can weigh in on that one. I'd probably save that for someone that's in the policy department.
Okay, thank you very much, Chad. I believe we are out of time. I know Sieka was looking at me, and Daniel, we are out of time, and I do have to stick to time. Can we please have a round of applause for these panelists? Thank you very much. I thought you were great. How can people reach you?
Good. So from a MasterCard perspective, Community Pass, you'll be able to see it at our website, www.mastercard.com.
Sieka.
Thank you.
Mersico AgriFin is also online, so you can be able to connect with us online as well. So we have a website. You just look at Mersico AgriFin, and all our contacts are there.
And either website or you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I answer to every message.
Thank you very much. Now we need to take a photo, or you guys need to take a photo. I'm not in the photo. If you don't mind, where are the photographers? Here they come. Please organize yourselves. Your best smile. Thank you very much. If you could exit from the left side, thank you so much. Oh, not quite done. One more. Okay. Thank you, photographer. Thank you. If you could exit from the left side, Daniel. Thank you very much.